Desperate to maintain some sense of hope, Fiona and Thony track down a man who is supposed to be Luca's bone marrow donor as Arman deals with the feds encroaching on his business. Our first topic is the liability. From what we've known about Eric, it's clear that he isn't necessarily the sharpest tool in the toolbox, and because of that, he makes an easy target when it comes to the feds. Especially since, when it comes to Thony, she's very iffy, wishy-washy, and just plain old unreliable. Thony is unreliable. But one thing she can do is take down Eric, and Garrett tasks her with taking a spy pin, placing it somewhere near a conversation that will get Eric implicated, and it works. Eric gets taken down, but no sooner does that happen, Eric is calling Arman, letting them know that, hey, I got a laptop in Lexi's suite that can possibly implicate us and get us all in trouble. And just to note, Lexi is one of the aerialists that works at Arman's club who Eric is messing around with. Now, on a side note, it's not clear if Eric is single or married, so it's not. I don't really know if that's going to be a major problem. But as we're about to go into, you'll find out that it's not going to matter in the long run. So, getting back to the point. Arman, since he can't clearly go up into Lexi's room and get the laptop, he tasks Thony with doing this, and she gets the laptop, but she also barely misses Garrett and his partner when it comes to getting it. And being this show as it is, following certain, storyline, pathlines, however you want to put it, the necklace that Thony wears, as she's exiting and just slipping past Garrett and his partner, it drops. So now he knows that she was in the room. But that's not the only issue for Garrett, because with Eric being locked up, it seems pretty clear that he's going to probably squeal like a pig. But whether it is Hayek, Arman, maybe the Chinese who are trying to compete with Hayek in order to get this deal for the hotel and casino, somebody sets up Eric to get killed. And with that, now the only person who knows what was going on is Arman, maybe Thony to a little bit, and Lexi, who isn't really accounted for when it comes to all this. Rather, Lexi's treated like just some fling, as if she may not be privy to all that Eric was doing, rather. Topic 2, a trip to LA, focuses on just Thony and Fiona trying to get a gentleman named Joe on board with donating his bone marrow. This is quite an issue, since Joe, especially if you go by what his daughter Grace says, is basically a butthead. He's somebody that has no intention of helping other people, and even though Thony and Fiona come from Las Vegas all the way to LA in order to possibly get him to reconsider, he's not for it at all. In fact, he's quite annoyed that they took up his time and tried to use him being half Filipino against him. And he even tries to throw out money like, hey, it's going to cost $50,000, and then when it was going back and forth, he put it to $100,000, all with really no desire to actually do anything. He was just trying to get them to back off. But while that's unfortunately a failure, there is fortunately some good that comes out of this in terms of, Fiona and Thony, instead of kind of living their separate lives as we've seen for the last episode or two, now it's back to them talking and, Fiona mentioning how much it costs when it comes to getting Chris' DACA application processed, and Thony, be it because it's money she saved from when she was in Manila and came over, or else because of how much Arman was paying her, she offers up $10,000, which, for whatever reason, Fiona still is not asking questions about, whether it's the FBI, this money, who Arman is, yada, yada, yada. But pretty much, rather than take Thony up on this deal, she goes to Brandon, the guy we met in, I think, episode 1 maybe episode 2, who was offering Thony and Fiona the ability to work in the clubs, as cocktail girls, as long as they sell drugs at the same time. She goes to him, and she makes enough money to put down a down payment so that Chris's paperwork can begin. All while Thony has her drug money hidden who knows where. Well, not drug money, but, money from Arman's definitely, probably partly drug business, but probably mostly weapons arm dealing. While that's hidden away and, basically being untouched. The last topic is that's what friends are for, and pretty much that's when Arman decides to, come back into the fold, and despite everything that Tony said to him, deciding he's gonna help with this situation with Joe. Now, is it just because of, kind of seeing himself in Luca, maybe liking Luca? It's hard to say. But he decides to, with his men, go all the way to LA, kidnap Joe, bring him all the way to Vegas. And while Tony doesn't allow them to rough him up, they are allowed to talk to him and definitely put some fear into him, but Joe's half Filipino and definitely gangster. So this whole, oh, you kidnapped me, is like, this is an annoyance more than this something that's putting fear into him. And with that, and also just not wanting to be a bad person or mess up her karma, Tony instead decides, you know what, y'all have done enough. I'm going to just take him home. And in the process of taking him home, she learns why Joe has been so hesitant and took himself off the donor list. And it's, long story short, his wife died when she was just supposed to get a simple hernia procedure. And with that, he looks at this bone marrow thing that's also supposed to be a simple procedure as something that could possibly kill him. And then one of the other issues is, right now, as much as Joe doesn't have much to live for since him and Grace, his daughter, are kind of beefing, giving up his life or giving up his bone marrow to some kid he doesn't know just doesn't click. However, once he hears Tony sing to Luca for a lullaby, which reminds him of the lullaby his grandmother would sing to him, all that fear, insecurity, whatever you want to call it, it melts, and he decides he's going to donate his marrow. And as a reward for that, you could say, between Fiona and Thony, they talk to Grace, let them know what their father did, and allow those two to reconcile. Now, I should note, being that Fiona's single, there is this kind of dynamic between them being Fiona and Joe, that you never know, something could happen there. Maybe. I'm not saying for sure, but she was definitely flirting with him a little bit. Our first highlight is just Fiona and Tony's storylines finally intermingling again. And granted, it's not to a grand degree since, it goes from the road trip and then them just separating once more. But at the very least, it felt like they was checking in on each other. Fiona coming on this trip with Tony, doing everything that they needed to do in order to get Joe's information, from duping that doctor to going to meet Grace. It reminded you that these two are in it together. It's just they have so much going on as individuals that they can't really be in each other's business. And to be fair, Fiona's dealing with a crisis with her son, so what time does she really have to wonder where all this money Tony's getting is coming from, never mind where she's going, since she clearly is not working for the same employer as much as they used to. And then when it comes to Tony's storyline, she's dealing with someone who's an arms dealer, possibly is also dealing drugs, has this very corrupt politician involved with him, and she's now getting more and more involved because between the FBI wanting her to get evidence, there's also the issue of Arman trying to keep her alive since, as we've seen Tariq and others, yes, Tony might have proved that she can be loyal, but that doesn't mean that she's still not in this vulnerable position where she can easily be taken advantage of and potentially betray the family. So you can see that a lot's going on with both individuals, to the point where as much as they live in the same household, their lives are far from connected, which was considered a problem to us in the last episode, but I think in this episode, now having a bit of time and distance from the criticism, it makes a lot of sense. The next highlight is just the shock of Eric being killed, and I'm not going to pretend this is some big time shock because he's not necessarily a big player on this show, but at the same time, he was the political connect when it came to Hayek's organization, so him dying, it almost makes you wonder who else could potentially get hurt or killed. Now, Granted, I don't expect Arman to get killed. Hayek, Tariq, maybe. In terms of our good friend Thony, let's be real. She may get marked up a little bit, but ain't nothing happened to her. So when it comes to Eric, I feel like it kind of upped the stakes a little bit, but not enough where you really feel like there's a threat on everyone's life. It's just something to shake you up a little bit. Also, I would add, it kind of makes you wonder when it comes to the mention of Chinese bias competing with Hayek. Maybe we may get an actual villain when it comes to this show beyond, Garrett threatening Thony with getting deported, or else, perhaps Hayek or even Arman having a bad day and, going off on Thony. Because right now, Garrett is not the best kind of villain, especially because they want to try to make him humanized through his kid or whatever. So having an absolute villain who's against Hayek, Arman, and then Thony, of course, being friendly because of her alliance with them, it could be beneficial. And with seeing Eric get killed and not knowing who did it, one thing could lead to the other. In terms of low points, the one thing that we don't appreciate is that whole Thony dropping her necklace in Lexi's suite thing. And it's only because it felt like the laziest way to handle that situation. Since, in my mind, it's a hotel. Garrett and his partner already stormed in. They're pretty sure that somebody was in there. So, the easier way to do it without doing that, I want to say it's a trope. I'm not sure if it's a trope or not, but that word keeps popping into my mind. And, long story short, my thought is, why didn't they just have, Garrett ask to see the cameras, spot Thony, and call it a day? Why did they have to have the necklace drop thing, which is so ridiculous, and also kind of pushes you to question, when it comes to Thony and that necklace, why did it pop off then and there, considering all she's done, including with Arman go through an explosion, and yet it didn't fall off. Speaking of Arman, the on-the-fence topic for us is just Arman getting over what Thony said to him so quickly. Now, I gotta admit, I'm not fully sure how much time passes between episodes. Sometimes they tell us, sometimes they don't. But one of the things that I definitely am taking note of is that I can't imagine someone like Arman, who has been disowned by his family, being able to really handle a woman that just came into his life and is judging him, using his family against him, especially on the day that the woman of his dreams, or at least maybe former woman of his dreams, is getting married. To me, there should be a lot of feelings involved with that seemingly just went to the wayside just because of Luca. And granted, Arman is not a heartless criminal, that's what his complexity comes from, but I don't know, I just feel like there wasn't an apology there wasn't something that really could make you feel that there could be a serious water under the bridge situation. Especially since, as previously noted, it's not like Thony just every once in a while pops off at the lip. She does it again and again, and it's only seemingly getting worse every time she decides to criticize somebody who's in power. Overall, as the cleaning lady slowly escalates the case against Arman and Hayek, it maintains a pace that allows for an exploration of Thony and Fiona's life without making a personal pale in comparison to the crime element of the FBI's investigation.